Alright guys, now that we've learned the correct grip for backhand and forehand topspin, here's how we're going to play the forehand topspin. Typically, you'll see players grab a ball together, they'll warm up like this, then they'll take a step back, they might even widen their legs, right? And they'll start to play something like this. Now,
Oh man, it's been a while.
if I was to go back into my years and teach myself as a 6-year-old exactly how to play a forehand topspin, it would be something like this. You've got the grip, now you stand here, as the ball comes, as you start to see the ball coming, it's coming here, your eyes and mind pick up the speed of the ball that's incoming. You've decided that it's a pretty regular low ball, and why it's a regular low ball, I'm going to tell you why this is important later on in this video. But let's say a regular low ball is coming, right? It comes, you start to straighten your arm, but the key is we're straightening our arm using only the wrist, right? Because table tennis is one of those sports where you don't play a forehand topspin like that, right? It's not a tennis racket where, again, right, this is revising some of the theories and concepts that I taught you in the last clip, which is how to have the right grip and why the grip is that way. If you haven't already watched it, do watch the grip first before you do this, because you need to know that before going on to this. So, how we forehand topspin? We don't do this because it's not a tennis racket. We don't need to use our shoulders, we don't need to use our elbows. Table tennis rackets are light, and a lot of it, the spin that you get on the ball is going to be much more intense than a badminton racket or a tennis racket or a squash racket. So, for that reason, it's our fingers, it's our wrists dominating the shot, being the thing that gets 99% of the action as well as most of the spin. So we're here, using our wrist, we straighten that arm, right? There's a difference between straightening your arm, using your shoulders, which is not going to allow, see, if you just do an experiment where you tense your arm and you try to move your wrist, see, I've pretty much got the same amount of tension here as I do here, as I do here and here. And see what happens? I'm so locked. Now, how can I play a forehand topspin being so locked? Now, if I loosen myself up, right, and I keep this here, but I don't use these muscles at all, and I only use here, you're going to get something that looks like this, right? You're going to get something that looks like that. Now that, to you, probably looks very familiar. You probably see a lot of the pros doing it. You probably see me doing it in my videos on Instagram, YouTube, and so forth, and Facebook. In other words, it looks correct, right? Because it is correct. It's how you hit a correct table tennis forehand. But just to reiterate what we do on the arm and hand on the forehand topspin, not the body, yeah, just the hand, because in the next video, I'll teach you how the body comes in together with it, right? Because later in the next clip, I'm going to talk to you about how to use your legs, your body, your waist with it, right? It does go synonymously. It's 80% that and 20% this once you've already mastered it. But in terms of mastering it, let's talk about it, right? Because this is the part where if you just get this right, you're going to spin the ball. If you get this wrong, doesn't matter how well you use your body, you're going to flat hit the ball and you're not going to hit it efficiently, you're not going to hit it consistently. So here, what we want to be doing is getting that wrist back and then following through, imagining the ball's there, boom, right? So here, the only way we can do that, assuming our arm is straight or nearly straight, the only way we can do that is to isolate the wrist from the rest of the arm here. We don't want to use here, we don't want to use here, we don't want to use the elbow, we don't even want to use the forearm. We only want to use these fingers here in this part of that wrist, right? Because that should be the whole, that's the thing that is holding the racket. That's the thing that's going to get the racket moving quick, and the racket moving quick is the only way that we're actually going to get the ball spinning, right? So we need to have the wrist isolated from the rest of the shoulder, the elbow. And people will ask me, what does it mean to use your fingers? I'll show you, right? So it's not just my wrist that goes, it's my finger. Look at my fingers moving, right? My fingers are moving more than anything. Then my wrist is moving a little bit, and then you'll see my shoulder, right? It's look at it. How much is my shoulder actually moving? 0. You might see the elbow moving a little bit incidentally, but I absolutely reassure you that it's not doing that. It's not moving, and it shouldn't be, right? It should be 100% of the effort on the hand and on the arm should be from the fingers and the wrist. Everything else should be still. So what we want to be doing from that angle is to bend the wrist back. So one, straighten the arm using only the wrist. Yeah, keep the arm loose. And now that we have a straight arm, I want you to bend that wrist back. So you'll see here, I want you to bend that back, right? Because if we just grab your bat, or even do this without a bat, and just go like that, right? You'll notice that there's a lot of stored tension here, and that's good, right? It may sound like a bad word, tension, but it's actually really good because it's like an elastic band. When you pull it back, there's some tension, but then once you let go of that tension, when you release it, it goes flying that way. Similar thing here, I want that wrist back. Take that right finger, wrist back. Right, at this moment, if your thumb comes off the racket, it's okay. Yeah, I want that wrist back. We're not going to stay in this position forever. It's just momentary, right? It's because we're using it to build up the ability to spin the ball. So wrist back, and then we're gonna do essentially something like this, like that. Yeah, we're not going to loop it like that, but the whole action from here to here is going to have that kind of turn in the shot. Yeah, so it looks something like this: wrist back, boom, wrist back, boom, wrist back, boom. Now your topspin might finish here, it might finish there. It doesn't matter, right? What does matter is that you have that wrist back and then your shot. Because imagine there's a ball, in which there is a ball here. I'm gonna get. Now what I want you to understand is that wrist goes back because, let's say if the wrist didn't go back, this is gonna be your contact. Now that's not gonna get spin, right? But if my wrist is back and I really go and do this, look at it, it's gonna really spin the ball. Now, of course, when I do a proper topspin like that, you're not gonna see the ball do that with a rubber, but it does happen, right? All right, so silly me didn't think that ball was actually gonna fly, but it did, right? So you saw the topspin in action. Now here, wrist back, again, here, we see the ball, straighten the arm with the wrist. Now we can do it at the same time, straighten the arm with the wrist and get that wrist all the way back, and then bang, and then bang, right? Later on, we're going to talk about if a really fast ball comes, that we do it, but we do it without shortening. We do it without winding our hand back because we don't have time. If we do have time, the whole thing does go back a lot. And sometimes when you don't have time, you can't go back with here, right? Because you'll see it in an example like this. However, for some reason, we can forward swing as much as we want, and our mind just knows how much we can forward swing because before we can't keep doing it. So forward swing as much as you can and as much as you want, but with how much backswing you have will depend largely on the kind of ball that you're getting. But let's assume again, for the purposes of this video, let's assume that you're getting a normal pace ball and you're getting a normal height ball. You're going to go here, you're going to wrist back, straighten the arm, bang, right? Rather than a binary right or wrong, you'll see in my topspins, my arm is not completely straight. You'll see the Chinese national team topspin and their arm is completely straight. Now that's a really good thing, right? You'll see Timo Boll, Ovtcharov, and you'll see Timo Boll, Ovtcharov, and their arms aren't completely straight. Now, I want to say that these guys are that good despite the fact that their forehands are imperfect. So key message, aim to be as good as you can rather than perfection. The most important thing is that your wrist does do that and it does do that, right? Because if you're not doing that, you're simply not spinning the ball. You'll notice on professionals like Liam Pitchford, Timo Boll, sure, a lot of these guys, a lot of these Europeans, your Jorgiches, your Anders Lind, these guys will have forehand topspins that they're not quite the same looking as the Chinese. But every single professional player, whether they have good looking technique or bad looking technique, they're good enough technique, more than good enough, because they are spinning that ball in the forehand. I mean, they wouldn't be top 100, top 200, 300, or even 500 in the world if they're not doing that sort of stuff, right? So key points, see the kind of ball, assuming it's a normal ball for now, you're gonna get that, straighten that arm and get that wrist back, and then you're gonna go bang, but only with here, bang. The elbow might move forward a little bit, but that's moving forward incidentally as a result of my wrist whipping the ball so much. So that's why in my videos, you'll see my loop really getting that wrist action, right? Because I'm doing that correctly. Now, the coach that taught me this from a young age taught me this very well. Every topspin needed to have this and that.